Remember we seen the Nephilim here post-flood, the giants, the Nephilim in Genesis 6? Well, it just so happens, everybody, that this word is only used twice in the Bible, but prior to the flood and after the flood, pre-diluvian and post-diluvian. You see them here in Numbers 13 and 33. It says, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. These giants were so big we felt like we were grasshoppers. This is the word Nephilim, as we proved earlier. So what are the Nephilim doing here in Numbers chapter 13 and 33, fighting against the children of Israel? This will probably be some 1,000 years or more after the flood. What are they doing here? I thought that only 8 people survived. The Nephilim would have drowned in the flood. Were they hiding on the ark like some people purport? Were they riding the ark like a skateboard to escape the flood? No. They're back on the scene post-diluvian through reincarnation, some would say regeneration, which is not a Karmaic or East Indian concept. It's actually a Hebraic biblical concept, which we'll prove soon. So the Nephilim from Genesis 6 who died in a flood, they never hid on the boats. They never surreptitiously and clandestinely snuck onto the ark like some people posit, but they died off because the Bible says only 8 people survived. They died off in that flood and they came back through reincarnation, regeneration, just like we see with the people of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, were the prototype Canaanites coming back as the Canaanites. Same reset. So after the flood, there was a reset. Adam and Eve having an issue with those same people, being Adam and Eve being the prototype Israelites. We see a reset post-diluvian with the Israelites having that same contention and conflict with the Canaanite nations, which is Anak right here, the Canaanites breeding these Nephilim. This is an example of reincarnation in the Bible. So let's take a look.
All right, first and foremost, I want to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Arechak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to the awful like tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the 4 winds of the earth. Now, what you just heard was a ridiculous, retarded ass breakdown from a priest Hakah. I mean, he was just straight dawson reaching. All right, because it makes totally no sense, if you analyze what he's really trying to bring out here. It's a total stretch. Because, for one, the sons of God in Genesis, the 5th chapter, you have the entire lineage from the generations of Adam through Seth all the way down to Noah. In the previous chapter, that's who the sons of God are. So you're telling me that Canaanites were part of that lineage and they reincarnated as Canaanites after the flood nearly 1,000 years later? Are you kidding me? Are you out your mind? But I'm pretty sure, because y'all getting into these other pseudepigrapha books, all right, and I'm pretty sure that y'all gonna start teaching from it. So you're gonna your breakdowns, your doctrines are gonna get more and more bugged the hell out. Which is why the scriptures say what it say. You know, you study when you matter of fact, let me get it real quick. Ecclesiastes 12:12. And it says, and further by these, my son, be admonished. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Let me get it in the NLT. And it says, but my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless, and much study wears you out. And this wisdom is like unto honey as well. And it tells you in Proverbs, the 25th chapter, don't eat too much honey or you're going to vomit everything up. All right. So these dudes are bugging out even more. Okay. Trying to separate themselves, trying to think that they can go deep on that level. And they have no guidance whatsoever. So that's why, you know, they're just going to continue to wax worse and worse. All right. But to show you how ridiculous that breakdown was. So let's go to Numbers 13. This is where he went. This is Numbers 13. And we're going to read up some. And these are basically when we was going to spy out the land of Canaan. You know, we did some scouting. And they had to basically report back on, you know, what they witnessed when they went to scout the land out. So this is Numbers 13:25 in the NLT. It says, after exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community or the congregation what they had seen and showed them the fruit they had taken from the land. This was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here is the kind of fruit it produces, but the people living there are powerful. Now, this is a report from the scouts, the spies, if you will. They're giving a report on what they saw, okay? They said that the people living there were powerful and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev, and the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once to take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. But the other men who had explored the land with them disagreed. Now these men, I'm pretty sure that these men were actually terrified at what they saw. So they finna give an exaggerated, fearful report to them. All right, basically saying this ain't a good idea because what we saw, it says we can't go up against them. They are stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. That's what they thought too. So this is clearly an exaggerated report because they were afraid of what they saw. They saw these big, long, very high in stature men, all right, in those towns. All right. So they're saying that we can't take these guys. Y'all talking about going to take the land? Them dudes are powerful and they're freaking huge. And they was basically using a comparison. All right. Because, when you look up the Hebrew, the word there is Nephilim. All right. But they're using the Nephilim as a comparison, not as a genealogical claim. That's what Hakah is doing. He's basically using this to say that they're making a genealogical claim that these men are the actual descendants of the Nephilim, the sons of God. How do you make the sons of God into Canaanites? Well, that's what Hakah just did. And you'd have to be very simple to really consume everything that he's feeding over there. This was awful. Now, to give more context to it and perspective, they were a Canaanite family that were known for their stature, and you also had another Canaanite family that were, similar in kin to them. All right, and they were known as the Emims. All right, and I believe that's let's go to Deuteronomy 2. I believe they were called that by the Moabites because they actually dwelt in the land of Moab before Moab got there. So let's go to Deuteronomy 2, and I'm going to start at the 9th verse. And it says, the Lord warned us, this is still in the NLT, do not bother the Moabites, the descendants of Lot, or start a war with them. I have given them or Ar as their property, and I will not give you any of their land. A race of giants called the Hamites had once lived in the area of Ar. They were as strong and numerous and tall as the Anakites, the sons of Anak, or Anak, another race of giants. See that? Both the Hamites and the Anakites are also known as the Rephaites, though the Moabites call them Hamites. All right. So when they were describing the sons of Anak, all right, those spies, they happen to use the word Nephilim, but they were actually of the race of the Rephaim, all right, which were basically they were let me go to this word here. There it is. So you see the word there is Rephaim. And the Hebrew word is Raphaim. And it says a giant, giants, Rephaim, old tribe of giants. All right, it says Rephaites, a very ancient nation of the Canaanites beyond Jordan, famous on account of their gigantic stature. All right, you go to the account in Genesis 14, who Abraham had to basically war with him. All right, Genesis 15:20, Isaiah 17:5, compare Deuteronomy 3:11, the remains of which continued even to the age of David. All right, so these were tall, gigantic Canaanites. All right. But they just happen to use the Nephilim as a comparison because the fallen ones, the sons of God, they were known for what? They were known for their might. You know, they were mighty men. All right. Let me see if I can find a precept. They were men of renown. They were famous. Let me just type in giants. Yeah, Baruch 3. In Baruch 3 and starting at 24, and it says, O Israel, how great is the house of the Most High, and how large is the place of his possession. Great and have none end, high and unmeasurable. There were the giants famous from the beginning that were of so great stature and so expert in war. All right. Those did not the Lord choose, neither gave he the way of knowledge unto them, but they were destroyed because they had no wisdom and perished through their own foolishness. So, these giants were known to be, warriors. They were experts in war. So that's why they were being compared, to the Nephilim. All right, let's go to Sirach 16. Yes, Sirach 16 and I'll start at verse 5. It says, "Many such things have I seen with mine eyes, and mine ear have heard greater things than these. In the congregation of the ungodly shall a fire be kindled, and in a rebellious nation wrath is set on fire. He was not pacified toward the old giants who fell away in the strength of their foolishness." All right, the sons of God, when they basically fell away, they were fallen ones. Napoleon, fallen ones, they fell away. All right. They fell away in the strength of their foolishness because why? They intermingled with the daughters of men. All right. And they became corrupted through those practices that perverted them. All right. They got into, madness, idolatry, so on and so forth. So they fell. And that's why by the time of Noah's generation, the Lord, he was getting ready to basically flush the earth. But he had to preserve, humanity through Noah and his 3 sons. And you better believe the sons of God, they continued to, when they came back to replenish the flood, you better believe they came back through the chosen line, which was, they had to have came through Shem. They didn't come through Japheth. They didn't come through Ham. They had to have came through Shem. Because when you read that, the lineage in the book of Luke, I believe this was Mary's line, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go to Luke 3. So basically, when you start from the 23rd verse and then read all the way down to the end, you'll see at the very end, Adam is the son of God. And then it talks about his lineage. When you read up instead of down, you're going basically down the same lineage you read about in Genesis, the 5th chapter. That was the sons of God. So you had Adam and then Seth, because he was the replacement of Abel. After Cain killed Abel, they brought forth Seth, and then Enoch, and then Canaan, and then Mahalalel, and then Jared, and then Enoch, and then Methuselah, then Lamech, then Noah, then Shem, then Arphaxad, then Canaan, then Shelah, then Eber, then Peleg, then Reu, then Saru, then Nahor, then Terah, then Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob. Come on, man. That's the lineage of the sons of the power, man. So this dude really just stretched just based on one verse and tried to turn the sons of God into a family of Canaanites just because it so happened to use the word Nephilim. Come on, man. But if you go into the research of that family, they were a group of giants. They were a family of giants, just like the Rephaim. All right. Let's go back to that in Deuteronomy 2. Deuteronomy 2 and 10, it says, "A race of giants called the Hamites had once lived in the area of Ar. They were as strong and numerous and tall as the Anakites. another race of giants. Okay, let me go to the KJV, and it says the Emims dwelt therein in time past, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims, which also were accounted giants as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Emims. All right, so the Anakims were accounted giants, and what is it? What word is there? Is it Rephaim or is it the Nephilim? It's Rephaim. All right, same word. And then you see the names of the families of Canaan, and the Rephaims, all right, were among that family. Okay. And then you had the Philistines. This is why Goliath was so huge, because he was a descendant. Okay. But this have nothing to do with the sons of the power, man. This has nothing to do with the fallen ones spoken of in Genesis, the 6th chapter. But this guy clearly reached out of his ass and came up with this breakdown. And you're gonna have some simpletons who don't study for themselves. They just like the, speech of certain guys because they know how to sound convincing and try to sound deep. But that dude, he's doing the bidding of Satan, man. He's clearly went to the dark side. And you wonder why we, brothers are sending them up on that nigga. The simple will believe every word. But if you prudent, you'll do your own studies. You be like, hold on, that don't sound right. Hell, hit Chat GPT. Chat GPT will even break it down for you. They're not always 100% accurate, but a lot of the times they be accurate on there. And I guarantee you, it would cut the hell out of Hakah. These are two distinct peoples. You cannot connect the two. Just because that word is used in appliance of that scripture doesn't make them connected. These were simply spies, scouts that were given a report. All right, and describing them. So that's pretty much my response, and this is me responding, to the priest, the brother Tazamak in the Dallas camp. All right, and this is his page, Soldier of Yahweh Yahweh Shai. Go ahead and subscribe and get edification. But he went in, and then I saw it, and I was like, you know what? Let me do a response as well. This was straight up retarded, man. And like I said, these guys are gonna get worse and worse. So their breakdowns are gonna get more and more ridiculous. All right, just watch them continue to just spiral out. Some clearly is in the water over there. But anyway, I'm gonna give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.